DESIblitz.com.
Hi, we're the Singh Twins and you're watching us on DESIblitz.com.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking to us at DESIblitz today. Could you tell us when you first realised art was a career path for you?
We never actually really chose art as a career path. We were sort of pushed into it, and it occurred whilst we were studying for our first degree many years ago, when we incidentally found ourselves studying Western contemporary art. We never really intended to be artists. We had enrolled at university to study ecclesiastical history and comparative religion, but as luck would have it, art was the only other subject out of the three that we needed to select that fitted in with the timetable. And I guess it was the experience there that we had when, as young students, we were trying to develop the Indian miniature style as our personal language, because we'd always been, fascinated with that tradition of Indian painting. And that decision really didn't go down well with the tutors at all. They said that the art form was backward and outdated and had no place in contemporary art. So, of course, that was a red rag to a bull, really. We wanted to rise to the challenge. And really, I think we felt that there was a sort of institutionalised prejudice within the art world that was reflective also of the kind of prejudice that we'd experienced as young Asians growing up in Britain at that time. And I'm talking about the sort of mid-80s. Yeah. I guess in the sense that everything was measured by the European yardstick, so it was a very Eurocentric outlook in terms of what was acceptable as contemporary art. And if you weren't following a Western master, then you weren't doing the right thing. That was the kind of attitude. The irony was that the be-all and end-all of being an artist, we taught at that time, was to be, this expressing your individuality. So we were trying to do that, but at the same time being told, well, actually you can't do it. You can't express yourself in that way. So there was a bit of a double standard going on, really. And it was at that point we really started using our work to challenge that kind of institutionalised prejudice. And our work in itself became a political tool in order to enable us to rebel against those kinds of attitudes. And that's something we've been doing all along, really, as artists.
Being twins, would you say one of you is more creative?
I think we're equally creative, but we both have our strengths which we recognise in each other, and I think that comes in very useful when we're working on pieces, particularly together as we do more often. I think my sister tends to be a little bit more patient when it comes to all those straight lines, so I usually hand over to her for those, and sometimes she'll hand over to me when we're composing the compositions, some of which can be really quite complicated, and I think she feels I have a bit more of an open mind when it comes to being imaginative with that freedom in terms of composition. I tend to restrict myself a bit more, which isn't always helpful. So we know where our weaknesses and strengths are, and we play on those a lot, actually.
But could you actually tell us more about the statement of our work bridges many worlds, ancient and modern?
Our artwork really draws on lots of influences. So the Indian miniature tradition, which is very narrative, detailed and symbolic style, is one of the first sources that we drew upon. But since then I think we've developed the style quite a lot, because we have kind of mixed it with lots of different art traditions globally. There's traditions from the past, so you have the Pre-Raphaelites, the Renaissance art forms, but also bringing in modern technology, so photography, more so digital creative software, in the way that we not just compose the work, but as with this exhibition here, actually creating the final image themselves, which for these works on the walls around us, it actually only exists as a digital file, because they bring together hand-painted elements, which we've of course created ourselves, but also scanned archival and historical material that have been manipulated in the computer, and also details within the works that have actually been created from scratch within the computer. So that's how we define our work in terms of it bridging two worlds, both East and West, because those art forms come from many different cultures, but also the different time spans that those art forms are taken from as well. Well, we also define our work as past modern as opposed to postmodern. So again, it's drawing on that idea of drawing upon traditional art forms or histories and making those relevant for a contemporary audience. So with a lot of the themes, we always love to look at things from history. Like in this particular exhibition, it's the history of Indian textiles. It's looking at objects from National Museum collections and Wolverhampton Art Gallery collections and seeing how those tie into the historical story. But then how do those historical stories relate to us today? In the here and now. So within Slaves of Fashion exhibition here at Wolverhampton Art Gallery, there are contemporary artworks that respond to the historical stories that we're telling. And so we've never been artists that want to separate tradition from modernity or even history from contemporary life. There's always that connection.
And you work under the name the Singh Twins. Can I ask why the Singh Twins rather than maybe the Core Twins?
Well, we've always used the surname Singh. Growing up in this country, you know, the protocol is at school you use your father's surname, so that's just been a natural surname for us to use. And then progressing from that, the Singh Twins, I guess it had a better ring to it anyway than the Core Twins or the Core Sisters, so it's just been a natural development from growing up here and using that as a surname. It's become a little bit of a problem though over the years, when I think people are more aware of the fact that Singh is usually associated with male Sikhs. And there have been occasions where we've walked into exhibitions and people are expecting two brothers to walk through the door. And on one occasion we were actually talking to a member of the public who were being very complimentary about our exhibition. And we thought he knew who we were, but the final sentence was, "Oh, and have you met the brothers? Do you know them? Are they still alive?" And we said, "Actually, we are the sisters and we are the Singh Twins." So it's caused a little bit of confusion over the years.
And kind of when you draw or create a piece, what is your process?
Our artwork really begins with a period of research before anything else happens, because we are often dealing with social, political, historical themes, and we try to be as accurate as possible within those. Of course, there's a lot of artistic license in the way in which we present those, because we're always trying to challenge people in their views of history and culture and identity. It's very much our job, we see, is sort of not getting people to see things as they think they are, but in broader senses, to challenge their perspective of how they view the world around them and how they interact with people around them as well. Sometimes that means also setting history straight as well, because as we know, history is always written by the victors, and so what we are officially taught in schools, for example, is not necessarily the only perspective that one should have with history, and even from a cultural point of view too. So for example, simple things like blue jeans or denim jeans. We have a painting in the show called Indigo, where we have the 17th century queen Mumtaz Mahal, the wife of Shah Jahan, who's buried at the Taj Mahal. She's wearing these blue Levi jeans, and most people associate Levi jeans with contemporary lifestyle, with the American dream, with the freedom and all the rest of it. But during our research for the Slaves of Fashion artwork, we uncovered the fact that denim fabric actually originated in India in the 16th century and was used by sailors. So it's turning things like that on its head, about cultural ownership and shared history and identity, trying to bring out interesting things that people may not necessarily be aware of.
Can I just say thank you so much for speaking to us today. We really appreciated seeing your beautiful work and then just hearing what your thoughts are behind it.
I really appreciate your interest as well. Thank you.
A brilliant experience. I absolutely love it.
Thank you.